Hi guys, today I have a very special video for you. It's about partial die cutting and coloring with Polychromos pencils, and I'm super proud of the card I made. I really like this card. I'm using the Which Way is the Candy stamp set by My Favorite Things and the matching stamp set. The Femme frames, the frame dies from the basic set by Mama Elephant, some orange cardstock, and a piece of watercolor cardstock. So I'm starting out by trying to figure out which way to turn this die until I figured out I could just hold it up to the clear stamp from the back because I could not fit it by putting it on the front of the stamp. I wonder why that is. Well, it took me about forever. And what I want to do is I want to have the witch be in that circle, but I don't want to cut her out completely. I want the shape to remain in the circle, but I want empty space around her. So I'm trying to figure out where to place her best. And then I'm holding her down with some post-it notes, and I'm using a ruler here to figure out where my circle will end on the bottom part, because I will need to align my cutting plates on my big shot, and for that it's helpful to have this this line. So here's my precision base plate, which is helpful because it's a solid die, and now I'm going to line up the edge of my cutting plate with that line. So everything that is covered up by the plate will be cut. Everything that is not covered up will not be cut. So you can see where the pressure was, it was cut, and it's not completely cut. So what I'm doing now is I'm lining up the circle die with the line as well. And I also only cut it to that part. I'm lining it up again, the same as I did with the witch. And when I take this out, you can see that I can take this out now, carefully of course. It's just watercolor paper, so it's a little bit thicker and heavier and more forgiving. And you can see now I have this gorgeous shape just sticking out in this empty space. So I'm super happy that this worked. Yay! Yeah, sorry for that. I'm going to be using archival ink to stamp this, and I placed the stamp on my Fiskars stamp press because I'll be lining this up. And lining this up is going to take me a little bit of time, and it's helpful if the stamp kind of hovers over the paper without me having to hold it there all the time. And I managed to stamp it pretty much perfectly. So yay for that as well. Now for the coloring with my colored pencils. I have shared quite a few tutorials already on how to color with colored pencils, and I'll be linking to my playlist in the video description below. I have a playlist with all my colored pencils tutorials. And basically the main story, well, the main point with colored pencils, I'm using Polychromos colored pencils, but the same applies to the Prismacolor colored pencils, is you have to work in layers. That's what I learned. I took the coloring classes by Kit and Clowder, and I'll have a link to them in the video description as well. And that's like the biggest epiphany I had when I was learning colored pencils, and I'm still learning. I'm far from perfect. I'm still learning. And that is, you have to work in layers. So when I'm done, each of the parts of the witch will have at least 3 layers of color. Some of them even have 6 layers of color. You start out by coloring with a very light hand. You could see on my first pass that you could almost not see the color because it was just so light. The color was so very light. And then you just gently build up the color to where you feel most comfortable with. And on each pass, you just add a little bit more pressure. I talked in my other videos about how to blend, so I encourage you to check them out if you're interested. And here you can see like how I'm doing the broom. Here I'm not doing perfect blending because I want the streaks to be seen, because the broom is not smooth. A broom has like twigs and whatever else in there. And here you can see how I'm adding folds to her dress. Those folds were not in there. If you go back just a few seconds before I started coloring her dress, thing was flat. There were no folds in there. So that's another thing I learned in the it was the coloring class for Kit and Clowder that dealt with clothing, and it's a Copic class, but you can apply the same principles to colored pencils, and you can see that how dimensional I can make her dress look. It now really looks like there are real folds in her dress, and I'm always giddy when that works out. I'm so super happy. Now with her hat, of course it had to be purple. I am just using one of my purples here to draw in where the shadow would be. Just a very light coloring here where the shadow would be. And now I'm taking the next color and just adding more color. And that's how you build it up. That's what I meant with working with a light hand. You know, when you look at it right now, you're like, yeah, but you know, it's not intense enough. There needs to be like proper highlights and proper shadows. Yeah, it's okay. We're gonna get there eventually. And don't be afraid to leave white space. Just leave where your highlight's going to go, just leave it white, because you can always fill it in, but it's really hard to get the highlight back again. Now you can see I'm going in with my darkest color here, and I'm applying a little bit more pressure because this is my second layer, but I'm not applying super hard pressure. We're going to use a lot more layers here. And I'm just blending out from the darkest towards the lighter areas. And you can see towards the end here, I have added maybe like 2 or 3 more layers already. I'm just building this up, and this is one of the reasons why I'm using watercolor paper. I'm using Torchon watercolor paper by Hanemühle. It's spelled Torchon, but I can't really find it on Amazon. That's why I can't link to it. But if you, for example, use Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, that should work also. I find every watercolor paper that has a little bit of tooth works really well, because the pigment of the pens can hold on really well to it. Now, here's my card base, and you might be wondering, what in the world is she doing? Now, I figured out where the opening of my die cut will be, and I just want to have a gradient there going from a little bit of darker orange to lighter orange. So that's why I used some distress ink to darken this up. And then I figured I wanted to have a dark, I wanted it to be dark around my my front panel. So I'm using black soot and darkening up the edges here. Of course, I mean, I could have just used black cardstock, but yeah. You can also use orange cardstock and apply black soot distressing to it, because it works, you know. Why do it the easy way if you can do it the hard way? You can see I've been generous with the foam tape here, because I don't want anything to sag on this panel. I want it to be very stable. And now I'm trying to line it up so it's straight, and it looks already so awesome. I'm like so giddy. But then I was like, wait, missing something. So I'm grabbing my gel pen, and I've sped this up, but I wanted you to see the entire process, how I add my dots. I start out by adding 3 larger ones, not the same size, but 3 larger ones, and then I'm filling in the empty space with small dots. And I feel that, especially on this card, the white dots really enhance the card incredibly. And then I'm grabbing my Jelly Roll Stardust pen, as one of my favorite glitter pens ever, and add some stardust dots in between, and they're sparkly. So here's the finished card. I added even some black dots after I had finished recording, because I wanted some additional contrast here, and I feel they just add in just a little bit of extra still to the card. You can see her face and her head, and you can see the space where I left it white for the longest really is a strong highlight and allows for the image to have real dimension and to shine. And you can see here once more the folds of her dress and the beautiful dots in the background. Thank you so much for watching. I would love if you'd subscribe or leave me a comment, and I'll catch you again soon. Happy Halloween!